And now on deck with the Tom Sox, hosted by Ben Rekosh.
I'm joined today by Timmy Lawson, one of the pitchers on this year's Tom Sox staff, a lefty from North Carolina. Really excited for him to be here in Charlottesville for a couple different reasons, which we'll get into today. But before we get into all of that, just baseball, otherwise, how's life been since getting to Charlottesville about a month ago?
It's been pretty good. It's been nice being able to, focus on, just playing baseball and, getting to know all these guys. So it's been a good time. It's been nice being away from school, definitely.
Before coming to the Tom Sox and learning that you play here this summer, what did you know about summer baseball? Were you familiar with any of the teammates besides the UNC guys or just the coaching staff in general?
I've heard about Coach Tomlin, heard he's a really good coach, and I've also played with Evan, Cole, Nico, and then of course Perry and Lee.
Just being from Florida,
UNC.
those guys?
Yeah, those guys being from Florida, I'll play with them a little bit. So
that's awesome. What surprised you the most about the grind and the everyday nature of summer baseball?
Nothing much, really. I feel like it's something that anybody who plays at, a high level and stuff with any sport that they do, like, you're going to have to do it every day anyway. So you might as well have fun with it. Had
you ever been to Charlottesville or the Valley before? Obviously, you played UVA when you were with North Carolina this season, but have you ever been in the Virginia area?
No, not really. I mean, I've driven through it, but don't really come up here too much unless it's around Georgia area for baseball.
What are your thoughts so far?
I like it. Definitely beat some of the other places we've traveled to so far. So I'd rather be here than,
That's
Culpeper.
Awesome. Shots fired, I guess. Another BPL team. Let's get into some of your backstory right here. You're from Fort Myers, Florida. You went to high school at Bishop Verot. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was life like for you growing up? We'll talk about your family a little bit, but were sports a big deal for you when you were a kid?
Yeah, huge deal. I mean, I played baseball since I was like 3 or whatever. I started football when I was 6 and then just played basketball, soccer, anything I really could until got to college, got to play football and baseball, and then, just playing baseball right now.
So your mom was an All-American volleyball player at Wayne State. Your dad was an All-American catcher at Wayne State, also a captain of Team USA in the early 2000s. Your brother is also an All-American baseball player. Tell me about your family a little bit, the competitive nature of everything, and just where that athleticism came from.
Clearly, we've always been competitive with each other, whether it be my dad, me, my little brother, or my mom. Like, we've always been competitive and competing and stuff. But I feel like the athleticism really shows, especially when you read it out, like in front of me. Joey's been playing great baseball, and I feel like it's something that I definitely attribute to my parents. I think they did well in bringing us up through sports and then also passing whatever they learned on to us.
Whether it's your dad with baseball or your mom with volleyball, was there one thing that they kind of taught you that stuck with you across sports?
Pretty much just do the best every time. Like, do as much as you can every time and don't leave anything out. You don't want any regrets, pretty much.
Like your work ethic, right?
Yeah, like no regrets and do everything you can to the fullest ability.
That's
so
awesome.
You don't regret it in the end.
Did you ever get in the volleyball side of things, trying to follow after your mother?
I played in like the powder puff volleyball, stuff like that, but never real volleyball. Like, I played beach and stuff like that down in Florida.
Did your dad ever tell you anything about what it was like to play for Team USA or to play for Wayne State there and sort of how that went?
A little bit. He's always just described it as, whether it be summer ball, USA, being at Wayne State or whatever, he's always described it as having fun. Like, he's always had fun with sports and playing baseball, and I think it's something that he definitely, taught me and my brothers to always have fun playing these sports.
That's what it's all about. It's a game, right? It's a game at the end of the day, whether it's football or baseball, basketball, you name it. It's supposed to be a game. It's supposed to be fun. So you talked about it a little bit. You also played football in high school. I'm just going to read a couple of your things. You can tell me what stands out. 2-time All-State, 20th best tight end in the nation, ranked by On3. Also ranked by On3 as the number 44 player in Florida. So what stands out from that perspective? And then before we talk recruiting, what was Bishop Verot like on the football field?
I feel that's a lot.
Yeah.
I think it pretty much shows like how important just having fun is, because I was committed for baseball before high school, so football is kind of a secondary thing, and then I ended up just having fun with it, and then all of a sudden started getting offers, and that became a bigger thing in my life. So I think that kind of ties back to that. And then what was the second thing? What was Bishop Verot like?
Bishop Verot, like as just a high school program from the football perspective.
Since I'm not there anymore, probably I'd like to say that it's like Blue Mountain State. No, but it was that was a joke we always made about it. We just always had fun with everything we did, and we ended up winning games just because we had fun being with each other. I think it was a very connected team that wanted to win a lot of games, and I'm really glad that I played football. there with Coach Rode.
What kind of football player were you? I know, we talk about all these touchdowns and receptions for tight end, but tight ends are really kind of doing everything. They're pass blocking. Sometimes you run routes. Sometimes you help on the run protection. Sometimes you help out with the quarterback in the backfield. Tell me about being a tight end and what type of tight end you were.
I think pretty much I've had to do everything. Pretty much I had a good connection with my quarterback, so I feel like that helped a lot when it came to knowing where to run on blocks, knowing where to go when on the field when I needed to make a catch or something like that. Like I could find the open field that I knew my quarterback was looking at, and I feel like that helped a lot with playing with teammates and getting to know them, getting to know the way they play the game. And I think for me it was more of I had fun doing everything at tight end. I loved catching the ball. I loved trying to get open, throwing around DBs or hitting a linebacker in the hole. I loved all of it. So I think that's why I was good at it.
At your peak, do you have an NFL comp or someone you look up to in the NFL that you're kind of trying to model your game after?
It used to be Travis Kelce, but the more we get to know him, the more he's a little bit off. But I was like Gronk. I thought he was always the coolest guy that everybody would want to be if you're a tight end.
What were some of the skills that you took from him?
He was just a beast. He did everything he needed to do to either get the ball or make his block. There's nothing that ever could really stand in his way that he would let get in his way. So I thought that was a good thing to model my game after.
In 2023 on the baseball field, you appeared in 10 games, going 2-0, 1.94 ERA, 21 2/3 innings, 36 strikeouts. On the football side now, tell me about Bishop Verot and your game as a whole there.
For football or baseball?
For baseball, sorry.
Well, for baseball, it was pretty much I didn't get a bunch of playing time my freshman year, even though I was on varsity, and it was kind of one of those things where I was still feeling it out with how football was going at the time because football had taken off, and I didn't really know what I was going to do, going forward. But my role coming into Bishop Verot for baseball helped me a lot with, learning how to get playing time and learning how to sit the bench and wait till your times that you get innings or you get to close a game or you get a couple innings here and there. I feel like it was good to learn that before, going into the starting role for Bishop Verot too. So I was glad I got to learn that part of the game.
I also read that in your senior season, I just read this after 2023, I read that in your senior season you were out with an injury for both sports. Is that true? What was that?
Yeah, so pretty much I tore my ACL, PCL, MCL, and meniscus.
Wow. All in one?
Destroyed the whole knee my senior season of football.
What happened?
In high school. I was blocking, and I ended up taking a diving helmet to the back outside of my knee, and it kind of destroyed everything. So I got to I had to miss rest of football, a couple baseball seasons, and over here at the Tom Sox, it's actually the first time I've pitched in almost 2 years.
That's awesome.
In a game.
So I was talking with Patrick about this a little bit. I was also talking with Coach Jim about this. But whenever you get injured, especially a big one like that, there's a physical side of the recovery and then a mental side of the recovery. How did you approach that on a day-to-day?
I pretty much just took it one day at a time. It's really no other way to take it if you start thinking about all the days that you have ahead, which is what I did right when I first got injured. I mean, the first thing I did when I laid down the field and I got hurt was think about how, wow, it's going to be forever until I can even run again. So that was a big thing I had to get past, and then pretty much taking it every day, attack rehab every day, and it's going to get better. And once I started to see it get better, that's made it a little bit easier. But I think the mental thing is ongoing, definitely, for anybody who's gotten majorly hurt. I feel like that's something that never really goes away that you gotta fight through.
That's real interesting. So correct me if I'm wrong here, but Fort Myers is about an hour and a half outside of Miami. Is that right?
It's we're 2 hours on the other coast. So Miami would be.
So you're outside of Tampa.
Yeah, it'd be like the other coast. Fort Myers, just flip flop it.
My point still stands, though, in that there's a lot of baseball and football talent in that sort of area. Tell me about just the plethora that you've seen, whether it was when you were at baseball showcases or football camps or what have you, just the amount of people and the amount of talent and prejudice that exists in the South Florida area.
I think it's something that's definitely not overlooked. Everybody knows that Fort Myers, Tampa, Miami, everywhere really down in Florida is a big hotspot for sports. And it was nice always having those big tournaments or showcases be really close to me. I mean, Tampa was an hour 50 away. Miami was 2 hours away. So we'd always go. You get to see different sides of the sport, playing in Miami, playing against all the other Miami teams, and then going up to Tampa, playing those teams in football where there was all just these big powerhouse teams. But it was cool to be able to, play against all this really high level talent and really see where you stand with everything and see what you got to do to be better or what you got to work on to really, fit in and then be better than everybody else you're playing against.
So let's talk about the recruiting process and how different and difficult it is when you're recruiting for 2 sports. So you mentioned that before high school you were already committed to baseball. Were you committed to North Carolina at that point?
I was committed to UCF. I was committed there before high school.
And then how did the trajectory go up throughout your football career that you thought that you might be able to, push something more and do both of these things?
It was pretty much, I was going through it, not really talking to anybody for baseball, as that was kind of the rule. You can't recruit people that are already committed, but I was still getting recruited for football because that was something that I haven't done before. And it was pretty much just everybody that contacted me, they would ask me about baseball, and then if the baseball coach was interested, I would get in touch with him too, and then pretty much have to do 2 separate recruiting for both of them because they didn't really blend together unless it was a certain school.
Was that hard?
Yeah.
To do 2 separate recruiting process?
It was really hard. Yeah. It was super fun. Definitely not a bad problem to have, but it did get to be a lot towards the end.
Was there a point that clicked for you and that you thought you realized you were going to have to decommit from UCF because there was a better opportunity elsewhere and just the difficulty of that decision somewhere?
Yeah, it was I wouldn't say it was difficult. Clearly the best option would be to go try to play for me, it was to play both sports and do as much as I can to try to, not regret any of that decision that I was making and just going to play baseball at UCF. But I thought it was fun recruiting for both, but I'm glad that I didn't, I'm glad I made the decision I made.
Yeah. So, as you kind of became both sports into the full picture and UNC was in your mind, what other schools were on that sort of level with Carolina that would have you have the opportunity of playing both football and baseball?
I think there were a lot more schools that were going to let me play both than there were that weren't going to let me.
Really?
But those schools that weren't going to let me did make it clear right off the bat that, if you come here for football, you're not playing baseball, which makes sense, for some schools. It's hard to play both sports and, focus on each one. So I get the thought around it. But, forget the original question.
No, it's just if there were any other schools in the mix there while you were deciding, or if it was always UCF to UNC.
No, there was a lot of different schools, and I feel like my top pick changed all the time. So, especially with I had some pretty good options to choose from, so I was definitely jumping around to all my different ones. And UNC was just my first. I had 6 official visits set up. UNC was my first official. I went. Was in the office with Mac Brown, and he told me to give him one reason that I shouldn't commit there, and I couldn't give him one. So committed to UNC on my first official, and ended up not taking my other ones.
That's pretty cool. Why was it, besides that reason, why was it UNC? What were your conversations like with Mac Brown and Scott Forbes?
It was mainly, I loved talking to both Coach Brown and Coach Kitchens, and then Coach Forbes and Coach Gaines on both sides. It was one of those things where it's hard to find the one school that fits you with your coaches, and it's even harder to find a school that both coaches on both sports fit your what you want in a school. So I thought it was just perfect that they, the way they treat their players, the way they treat the game and everything, the way they play the game was just perfect to what I wanted to be a part of.
And so when someone usually goes on an official visit to somewhere, especially somewhere as prestigious as North Carolina, they're given the red carpet treatment, right? They get a great hotel, you get the nicest dinner in Chapel Hill, you get a private tour of the football facility, but for you, you had to fit 2 official visits into one.
Yeah.
So how did that work? Were you just more crammed than ever, or did you have to, cut down the time for each?
It was pretty cool. I feel like with any official, they do try to fill up every single second of your time with something different, but I feel like there are little lulls in your schedule where you can go check out a baseball facility or something like that. But I also thoroughly checked out all the places that I've been to, baseball and football wise, so I knew kind of what I was getting into. So the official was more of just a, celebrate type thing.
That's awesome.
Which is, why I was, I kind of wanted to see, of course, what my other officials would have looked like, but I still would have chose UNC.
Tell me about what kind of guy and what kind of coach Mac Brown was, because, he has this reputation of being one of the older souls in college football, obviously not with North Carolina now, but, he's been around for a while, and people have mixed opinions on who he is, both as a coach and as a person. So tell me about your experience with him.
I think he's I think he's an amazing person, and he's one of the big reasons I committed to UNC. I have nothing wrong to say about him, but I like the way he treated us as players, and he treated it not just as a business where you needed to win and save money and do all this stuff, but as a game where we all just wanted to come play at UNC and play that game together. And he definitely treated it in a way that may have seemed too lenient for some people, but it definitely made it fun.
That's awesome.
For a lot of people.
That's awesome. Looking back at it now, just holistically, how was your freshman year at UNC? You obviously didn't play in either sport, and that's difficult, but there's also a lot to be learned there also.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something like I'm never one of those people that, like, I have high expectations, but I'm not, delusional to where it's like, I should be starting this, doing this, or whatever. Like, kind of just, coaches have plans for me, and I'll let that take its course, and I'll trust their plans. Trust Coach Scott, can't say that. Gotta cut that out. I trust Coach Forbes and his plan for me, so that's something I'm real excited for.
All in on baseball now. Obviously, there was a change in North Carolina football coaching staff. Everybody knows it's Bill Belichick. What was your reaction to that internally with the team and everything? And then in the following weeks, did you have a conversation with him? What was he like?
I thought it was crazy. That first, when they made that first post or whatever, that Coach Bill Belichick was going to come, Hall of Fame guy or whatever. I wasn't a big fan of the Patriots, so it was kind of a win-loss for me. But I thought it was cool, and I got to have meetings with him and kind of get to know him a little bit, and I think he's just a normal dude, cool guy. He loves football, and that's his passion. I mean, he definitely treats it like his life, which pretty much is, and I think he's going to have a lot of good things coming for UNC football.
Was he more or less like what you expected he would be?
I would say he's exactly what you'd expect he'd be on the football standpoint, but on the personal side, he's not at all what you'd expect him to be. He's a little hard or rough around the edges, but he's a cool guy. He likes to have fun.
What was the decision for you, maybe mutual decision, to sort of step away from football and fully commit to baseball?
It was more of a thing with, I thought about it for a long time, considering my injury and considering how it felt just to be on the football and baseball field compared to each other at the time. And I just had a lot of fun playing baseball, especially with UNC. And not that it's saying I didn't have fun with football, it was just I was having more fun on the baseball field. And it was something I wanted to put more of my focus into to get better at. And I think it was a great decision.
Knowing that you have a full year under your belt right now, you are familiar with the players, the coaching staff, the facilities. What's in store when you step on the mound in 2026 for the Tar Heels?
Really good things. A lot of outs and not a lot of walks. That's the plan.
If you would imagine a dream year two, a perfect scenario, what does that look like for you?
Pretty much get in there wherever Coach Gaines has me, and compete, try to win every single AB.
All right, let's run through some rapid fire stuff real quick, and then we'll talk about the Tom Sox and get out of here. Who was your favorite athlete growing up?
Probably Triple H, and then I love Conor McGregor.
Favorite ballpark you've ever played in? Or football field, if that works better for you.
I mean, I actually played football. I get to be at the bowl game in Fenway. I thought that was pretty cool.
That was awesome, huh? Yeah. Say you're going on a road trip. You stop at Wawa or Sheetz or Quick Trip, whatever, you name it. What are you getting? Go-to snack and drink.
Probably Reese's and a Arizona iced tea.
Guilty pleasure movie or TV show?
I like Rick and Morty a lot and Kung Fu Panda.
Other than baseball, what are you best at?
Fishing, definitely.
What baseball stat do you personally look at the most to improve your game?
Strike to ball ratio.
Strike to ball ratio, okay. Would you rather get a game-winning touchdown or a game-sealing strikeout?
I have no idea. Strikeout.
All right.
So that's a good answer now that I've chosen baseball. I always used to get that question from coaches.
What's the app that you use the most on your phone?
Snapchat, probably. Instagram.
Would you rather see the future or change the past?
I don't know.
All right.
Neither. I feel like that feels, like too much power.
Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
I feel like the horse-sized ducks, or the horse-sized duck, would be a cool thing to see, and I'd want to fight it.
What's your game plan? Because he's a lot bigger than you.
I feel like just try to get its legs. I feel like I'm pretty big too, so I feel like I could fight it. A bunch of little horse-sized ducks, or Duck-sized horses
Yeah.
would be too much. I feel like too much to handle.
If you could invent or change one rule in the game of baseball, what would you do? A couple guys have said adding 4 strikes instead of 3, or 3 balls instead of 4.
I would probably make bunting illegal
Bunting illegal. Why is that?
because I don't want to field.
You don't like that as a pitcher. You're saying
Yeah.
that from a pitcher's perspective.
God, I can't put that on there. I'm gonna get roasted by my coach. I'd say probably.
Can't think of anything.
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
All right,
Yeah.
we can come back to it later. Let's talk about the Tom Sox here as we wrap it up. At the time of the recording, 4 games played, 15 strikeouts, 4 walks, 8 hits. What have you seen so far in your 4 starts as a member of the Tom Sox?
It's been good to finally be back out and like playing games like I haven't in years, but I think the main thing is that just throw more strikes and I'll get more outs. So
How
throw more strikes.
How difficult and also how special is it to be in a summer baseball setting like this? You don't know most of your teammates. You're in an area you've never been to, 6 or 7 games a week. Just talk to me about that.
I think it's super special. It's not something like I'd way rather be, having to go to baseball every day and that be the only thing in my day than have to worry about all the million other things that I could be worrying about, whether it's school, not being healthy, or family. Like there's a lot worse things to be worrying about. So I think it's nice to just be able to worry about baseball and that's it for a summer.
At the time of the recording, this team won 6 of the last 7 games, including the last 2. A big one tonight against Waynesboro. Despite the rough start, seems to have a lot of momentum with the squad right now. How have you seen things going over the last couple of weeks?
I think it's just people falling into place. Like it's hard coming to a new team with a bunch of different people and you're just trying to find your place in the lineup or in the pitching rotation. And I think people are just kind of settling in, realizing what they got to do every AB, every pitch, and we're just going to keep getting better.
We're about halfway through the season right now. If you were the coach and you're telling this team we're 2 games under 500, a chance to get 1 game under 500 right now, about 25 games left, what's your message to help this momentum going?
Probably don't look at the scoreboard and just play every pitch. Pitch after pitch, focus on the next one, and don't live in the past and don't live in the future, just every pitch.
For the rest of the season, are there any goals, either personally or holistically, that you want to share?
Win every game.
Win every game, I like it. What would it mean for you? We've been talking about this. This team, despite the 4 championships in franchise history, has the chance to do something that has never been done before, and that's go back-to-back. What would it mean for you to host the VBL Trophy at the end of the season?
I think it'd be a pretty cool experience, doing something that other teams haven't before, and especially getting to grow tighter with these guys on this team. Just through that would be a fun thing to experience, I think.
That's awesome. All right, last one. I'll leave the floor to you as we wrap up, and I'll let you get out to BP right there. Is there anything else that you want to say to Tom Sox Nation, anyone listening that we haven't touched on so far?
Go Tom Sox and come to every game you can.
I love it. Tim Lawson,
Yeah.
great to talk with you.
Thank you.
A lot of fun. Love to have you on the team. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. This has been On Deck with the Tom Sox.